and welcome to another edition of Seekers of the Supernatural. You are now standing in one of the most haunted houses in the world. Allow me to show you the Halloween room of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Here you see some of the artifacts, some of the collections throughout the years that Ed has gotten, some skulls, things from ancient Scotland. And we're going to come around this way and we're going to look at some more objects of Halloween. These are a lot of collections that Ed got through the years from people who've generously given to him on his birthday, and haunted houses, and people who've just known that Ed was an aficionado of Halloween. As we walk down this way, you can see his latest, which is a big monster figure that he got on Ed's 70th anniversary, I should say 70th birthday. And over here is a giant birthday card that was offered to him on his 70th birthday on September 7th. But this is a fun room, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said before, welcome. My name is Tony Spera. We will now be entering the haunted passageway, perhaps entering the most horrific part of any area, any square mileage of any part of this world. So come on with me, and we're going to walk through the haunted passageway. I would never do this if it was after 9 o'clock at night. Follow me through here, Rob. As you can see here, it looks almost like a dungeon as we progress through this haunted passageway. Sounds like the Hound of the Baskervilles. A lot of Ed's paintings are hanging on the wall that he's done throughout his 40 some odd years of painting. Now we're entering probably the most horrific part right here. This is the Occult Museum, perhaps the most haunted area, I would consider the most haunted area in the world. Over 45 years of collections of voodoo dolls, occult practice objects, satanic ritual objects, witchcraft objects. I would have to say, with all due caution to viewers, it's not a place you'd want to stay at night. It's not a place you'd want to stay for any length of time. But we're going to take the time for the tour. It's before 9 o'clock, so we're all set. Between 9 p.m. and 6 p.m., 6 a.m., it really gets bad. But I consider this to be the most haunted area in the world as we enter. Okay, here we are, and perhaps the most haunted area in the world. That's what I would say.
I would say that it is one of the most haunted areas because of the many things here, Tony, that come from all parts of the world. Europe, Asia, America, Canada, Mexico. This is a collection of items on the occult that have been used in diabolical experiences by many different types of people into black magic, wizardry, sorcery, and so forth.
These are all things that you then would consider evil, Ed?
Oh, positively. In fact, this is not a building that you should be in after 9 o'clock at night. From 9 to 6 are the psychic hours. This is not a Halloween room. This is the real thing.
Okay.
Many of the objects in this room here have had dire effects on people. People have been maimed, have been killed. People have wound up in mental institutions because of many of the things they write in this building here. You have the voodoo dolls, you have the Raggedy Ann doll, which was responsible for the death of a young man who came in here one time, who challenged the doll to do its worst, and it did. Then you have a detective who was almost killed right in this room that we're standing in, and a priest.
When we first panned in this room, I guess Rob was on the witch. Can you tell us a little bit about what...
Yeah, that's a model mannequin of Hannah Crana, our local witch, who died in 1845. Many of the farmers over on Cross Hill Road, which is just about maybe a quarter of a mile from here, would go along in the morning, and she'd sit up on this big rock, and she would say to them, if you don't have a pie for me tomorrow morning or dozen eggs or a hen, I'll curse you. These guys were so afraid of it that they would have that hen or that pie. And the Indians in this area were so frightened of her that they left here. It's also said that she did murder her husband, who was Joseph Hovey. He was an officer in the local, I guess, what do you call that?
Constabulary?
Yeah.
Militia?
Militia, that's it.
Oh, okay, and to the right of Hannah, I see there's a mirror. Can you tell me about that mirror?
That's a magic mirror that a gentleman used in New Jersey to conjure up spirits. That mirror, as we know, is a reflection of spirits.
Okay.
Ghosts, apparitions, demons, devils can reflect their images on a shiny surface very easily. This was used for that purpose, only the man who did the conjuring, unfortunately, today is in a mental institution.
Wow. Okay, why don't we step over this way?
How about this organ right here? That's an interesting piece.
I didn't know.
That was in the most haunted house in all of New England, which was Stratford, Connecticut. And they called it the Stratford Rappings. It was so famous, Tony, that they actually had in 1850 a carriage at the Bridgeport Police, or the railroad station, and it would take people all the way to Stratford to see these hauntings, which was the Reverend Phelps house. This is a painting I did of it down here. And Hannah Cranna, the witch, and another witch by the name of Goody Bassett were very involved in black magic at that time. In fact, Goody Bassett was hung near the old railroad station for her witchcraft practices. But this organ was in that house for many years. A gentleman had purchased it. He collected organs, but when it started playing on its own, he wanted to get rid of it. And he called me up and told me where it came from, and he'd like to get rid of it, so I took it. And we've heard this organ play 3 times, the strains of it coming up through the passageway, into our Halloween room, up the stairs, and into our bedroom.
Wow, that's amazing, Ed. Ed, I want to point out these statues, or what are
Yes.
these, voodoo dolls?
These are fertility dolls from Africa. Over here you see the one which is covered with human blood, and there are 7 of them that were stolen from a witch doctor. You do not steal things from witch doctors ever. Now, the man who stole them died a terrible death. The man he sent them to, who was right in Bridgeport, Connecticut, he and his wife suffered for 2 years and then finally died. You don't steal things from witch doctors.
I'd say not. Why don't we head over this way, but while we're heading this way right here, Ed, I see this book here. This book, it says Book of Shadows, Necromonicon. Can you tell me what that is?
Yes, that's one of the original books of shadows, which were written in the medieval days. And this one here was translated into English. Just the reading of that book has had terrible results for many people. This is not a book that anyone should ever buy, a book of shadows. It goes into the incantations of devils and demons and rituals.
Okay, what else? Does this signify anything here?
All right, you notice there's a mask here. It's a typical Halloween mask.
Right.
But the problem with this is that many people buy these masks and they use them actually in black magic. This one was put on a person's head. They looked into a mirror. They took the mask off and they visualized themselves as looking like this. They created a physical manifestation of a tulpa.
Wow. Isn't that wild? This here scares me. This one right here, Ed. The Raggedy Ann doll.
Yes, that's probably the worst thing we have in this whole museum. That Raggedy Ann doll was given to a nurse in 1970 by her mother as a Christmas present. But as most girls do, even 28 years old, she would take the doll to bed with her, wrap her arm around and go to sleep. I do the same thing with a pillow. But then she started taking it to the breakfast nook where the arms one morning went onto the table. Now she lived with another nurse, and they shared the expenses of the apartment, which was 4 blocks away from Hartford Hospital.
Right.
At that point, they told the girls about the incident, and one said, "I know a medium." So they held a seance that night. That was the beginning of many seances with this doll. They would come home at night, and the woman had told them, the medium, that there was a spirit of a 6-year-old child in the doll by the name of Annabelle, who had been killed outside of their apartment house in an automobile accident. Well, there was such a child, but God does not allow a child's spirit to go into a doll. This was a devil, a demon, inside the doll, which was impersonating the spirit of a child. Well, they treated it like it was a child. They got extra clothing, and they got different types of bracelets and things for it, just treating it like a little girl. They would take it for rides. But then they started to become frightened when things were happening in the house, sounds, knockings, rappings, whispering. And they said, oh, Annabelle must want another seance. So they would hold a seance going deeper down that road of no return. Then they would take the doll and put it on the bedroom, in the bed, and they'd leave it there. They'd come home after midnight, the two girls, open up the door, and this doll would be standing there waiting for them. Now that doll can't stand. You can see it has very flimsy legs, but I've seen it stand. Now these are all the diabolical manifestations that we look for. Well, as time went on, one of the fiancés of one of the girls said, get rid of the doll, burn it, throw it away. He wanted to get rid of that doll. He fell asleep one Saturday afternoon. And the doll was put right across from him on a couch. And the girls were fooling around saying, well, now, Annabelle, you help us to clean up, just like it was a little kid.
Yep.
All of a sudden, he woke up with a start. He was sweating. He said, my God, he said, what a nightmare I just had. I dreamt that Annabelle there was strangling me, and he had marks on his throat. Was it psychosomatic? Well, he walks over to the doll, he picks it up, and looks at it, and throws it right across the room. You're nothing but a rag doll. You couldn't hurt anyone. With that, 7 slashes appeared on his body, 4 in the chest and 3 on the stomach. The blood came right through his shirt. Wow. Now they were all frightened. Things were flying around the room. They called the High Episcopal Canon in Hartford. He called Father Richard Nolan. Father Nolan called us. We went to the house. Exorcism was performed immediately in the home and over the people. I took the doll back to my home here, where it's in the museum now. At one time, I had it just sitting in a chair. But a priest came here one day and he said, Ed, this doll is supposed to be infested by devils. He picks the doll up and he throws it across the room, just like the young man in the house. God is more powerful than the devil. I said, yes, Father, you're right. God is more powerful than the devil, but no priest is, no man. On his way home in a brand new car on Route 84, the car went out of control, almost head on into a tractor-trailer truck. It was demolished, and the priest was almost killed. The last thing he remembered seeing was that doll. A detective, a homicide detective that Lorraine and I were working with, wanted to see the museum. We work on many cases of where children are murdered or whatever. And he came down, he looked all over, and he said, you know, Ed, of all the things here, I can't take my eyes off that doll. At that time, it was still in a chair. The phone rang. I said, I'll be right back. Don't touch anything in this room. Everything in here is unholy, unblessed, the opposite of what you would find in a church. Well, I wasn't even up there talking for 10 minutes when I heard him coming up the stairs. He had to come through the passageway into the Halloween room and up into the kitchen. This man was a huge guy. He was about 6'3", 250 pounds, used to seeing grisly sights. He was sweating. He couldn't speak. He was trembling. I thought he was having a heart attack. I told him to sit down and I'd call an ambulance. He said, no, Ed, it isn't that. I said, well, what's wrong? I don't want to talk about it. That's what he said. I don't want to talk about it. Sometimes a little macho and cock, right, you know.
Sure.
And Lorraine walked in and he looked at Lorraine, and I guess he found it easier to talk to a woman than a man. He said, I'll tell her about it, but I don't want her to ever talk about it again. Well, she didn't have to. The doll had been in the chair over in one corner of this room. When I came in, the doll was over in another corner on the floor. Everything had been knocked over, like there was a terrible struggle here. There was a terrible struggle. This man had picked that doll up. Wow. His aura had mingled with the aura of that doll, and something so terrible occurred that he resigned from the police department 3 months later and moved to California.
Is that right?
A young man came in here one day with a bunch of college students, and after I told him about the doll and many other things, he came over here. I was standing over in the other corner. He started tapping on this glass and said, I don't believe any of this is a bunch of hooey. He said, if that doll can do anything, let it do something to me right now. Put a slash on me. I put him out of the building. He was on a motorcycle. 3 hours later, he was dead. Oh. The girl that he was with said that he was laughing about the doll when the motorcycle, just like the car, went out of control, hit a tree, and killed him instantly. Yeah. The girl was in the hospital for over a year. You do never challenge devils.
Don't mess with the devil, that's
no.
for sure, huh? Okay, what are these?
Up here, Tony, we have a New England witch doll, which is in the globe there. That's Myariah magic. It is carved in the image of the victim. Both of those dolls are over 100 years old. And pork is wrapped around it. It has the victim's clothing and wood that was probably taken from something the victim used every day, like a chair or something, made in her image. And as the pork would rot,
Yeah.
as this doll was hanging in a tree near her bedroom, the victim would become sick and die. Next to it is Congolese magic, voodoo doll. That comes from the black nations of our world. You can see the human hair of the victim on top,
Yep.
the clothing,
Yep.
and it even has the fingernail clippings in the feet. And this, of course, is the voodoo dolls that are used with the different colored pins. So one is European and one is African.
Okay, what else?
All right.
Right here.
We have a number, well, we have this young bride here, picture. That's very interesting.
Well,
A couple had bought the picture, and they wanted to furnish their home in all Victorian because it was an old Victorian house. They kidded around and said it was Aunt Matilda. But about 2 weeks after they put up the picture, Aunt Matilda started visiting them.
Whoa.
And they thought that they had better call it a day. They called me up and brought the picture here. What's in back of you here, though, Tony, this idol,
Yeah, what is
satanic idol, that's very dangerous.
And it's about-
I didn't want you to bump into that.
about 6'6", I guess, 7 feet
Yep.
tall, I guess.
That was found in the Sandy Hook area over by Newtown. A hunter had found it, a young hunter, and it belonged to a group of Satanists, powerful group in this area. And this young man was almost killed 3 times for revealing where this idol was. It was in a grotto of rocks where a number of sacrifices of animals had occurred. Could have even been human sacrifices sometimes. But we brought it back here to the museum. We had notified the police of it.
We can come around here
And-
and shot of it.
Yes, we can. And Lorraine, one day soon after we got it, was thrown 25 feet through the air. She was in a catatonic state for 3 days. So this group was extremely powerful.
Okay, maybe in this corner. How about
The tiger.
Tiger skin.
Yes, the tiger that you see here in 1933 played a part in what we call lycanthropy, very similar to a werewolf. Now, a lycanthropist, a magician, a black magician, would go into a deep catatonic sleep. His astral body would leave his physical body and would possess the body of this tiger. Near Bengal, India, in 1933, this tiger killed numerous people. And we do know that it was because it was possessed by a lycanthropist.
That's amazing, Ed.
Yes.
And over here on these shelves here, is there...
All these things that you see on shelves have been taken from England, from Europe, haunted castles, haunted areas that we had gone into. All the items that you see that are on here that look like burnt, they're all burnt, those pictures and glass and so forth. Those were in a haunted house, the Donovan's house.
Right.
Flames would start to shoot up from the metal frames, the glass. The picture would fly off of the wall. You see doilies way over there, white doilies.
Okay, you're talking-
You'll notice that there's burns on them.
Right here?
Smoke would start to come from them, yep. And they would shoot across the room.
Okay, Ed, how about
That's a human skull you see over there with the satanic
Right.
pentagram on it. No, the bottom one, Tony.
right here?
That's it. That was a skull that was stolen, a human skull. Unfortunately, we don't know where, but Satanists used it for their black magic rituals.
Okay, why don't we go around this way, Ed?
All right.
Follow us around this way. If we can just back up here. I know there's some things that I missed over here. Looking down this area here, Ed.
Well, we should talk about our White Lady here.
Oh, yeah.
This is a model of our White Lady here, who's very famous in Easton and Monroe. And we had this made up. She's often seen sometimes with a small child walking along Route 59. I've actually filmed her in the Union Graveyard. But there have been many witnesses who have seen her in the graveyard, on Route 59, and even in Stepney Graveyard. A policeman and a fireman hit her one night. It was a solid impact.
Right. You filmed it how many years ago?
1990, Tony. It's quite an experience.
This here.
That's a death curse, which is